especially you, Davey, for good. Good evening and welcome to the November meeting of the Pickens County Republican Party. I'm Rick Tate, chairman. As we always do, we'll start with a prayer. If you'd all please join me. Dear Lord, bless us all here in this room and all watching and across our state and country tonight as we go through what has been a memorable year, to say the least. We pray that next year will be better and that you bless these scientists and doctors to be able to get these vaccines to people as they want them and be able to be delivered to them and see our nation heal both physically and politically. We pray to a quick and conclusive, a quick and resolute end to the elections, a decision that we can all believe in and have faith in so we can move forward as a country. In Christ's name and for his sake we pray. Amen. A couple of things to hit before I turn it over to our special guest tonight. I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. The pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now go ahead. I had so much running through my head. I apologize. A couple of things I wanted to hit before I turn it over to Davey. My microphone is working. Just didn't want to blast you out too bad. I think, just as a red, white, and blue citizen, the biggest, bothered me the most out of everything I've seen lately is free speech being thrown out the window, censorship, people being shouted down. But your opinion is not worthy. Somebody's sitting in an office somewhere at Google deciding what's truth and what's fiction. And, well, here are my thoughts. I wrote down a little thing here, nothing real complicated, but the beauty of free speech is it does not pretend to distinguish between truth and lie, good and evil. In the public square, we each have the right to speak our minds and hearts in support of what we believe or against that which we abhor. There is nothing more un-American than attempting to silence those whose words offend you or those with whom you disagree. To silence one is to eventually silence all. I believe that. The answer to speech you don't like is more speech. There is no great arbiter on this planet of what is truth and what is lie, or what is a lie. That's God Almighty's domain. We have the right as a human being to stand up and argue for what we believe in without somebody shutting us down and telling us to sit down and shut up. That is the home of the brave. Anyway, I'm not going to preach, but without that, we lose everything we've fought and died for over the last 200 years. It's the essence, the cornerstone of a free republic. As I would like to say this too. My hat's off to President Trump. When he started Operation Warp Speed and said that he would provide us, or not him personally, but he would see to it that we had a vaccine for the COVID virus within a year or less than a year, he was mocked and ridiculed. I think even Dr. Fauci said it'd take at least a year and a half. We're 10 months in. And tomorrow, I believe it's Pfizer, will be applying for the emergency or for approval to distribute their vaccine. And with a day or two, another company will. There's 3 that will be here before the end of the year. And they've got millions of doses ready to go, and within 24 hours of it being approved, it will be distributed and start being given to people. I believe we would have, these people would have told us what they were up to 3 weeks ago. I believe we would have seen a different outcome in the election. Anyway, And as far as the election goes, I don't know. I watched the press conference today with the president's lawyers. I don't know where all this is going, but I do know that the founding fathers were smart enough to put a process in place for us to work out these differences and problems. I have confidence and faith in that system, and I'm anxious to see the evidence and see it get before a judge and see what happens. With all of that, I think I've said enough tonight, and I've knocked over the stand and forgot to say the pledge when I was supposed to. So, at any rate, we have 2 elected officials here tonight. Senator Rex Rice is with us, and we appreciate your support in coming to our meetings, and Representative Davey Hiott from Pickens. Davey, without any further messing around here, we're going to give it to you.
That wasn't me.
No, that wasn't you. That was...
We ready to go?
Down just a little bit.
Thank you for allowing me to be here. Rick, you stole some of my thunder because I don't think anybody in this room tonight, two and a half weeks ago when you went to bed, thought we'd see what we've been seeing in this country, in the United States of America. And I know I didn't. I'm 60 years old, and I know I didn't ever think I'd see it in my lifetime. But we're witnessing it firsthand. And what I'm going to talk about 3 things tonight. And the first thing I want to talk about is because I want to say something positive before I get into what I consider some of the negative things. Because I will admit, as a born-again Christian, I will admit that there's some people that I don't particularly like today. And I've had to do some soul searching in my own heart the last 2.5 weeks to be reminded that God told me I got to love everybody. Because there's some folks that I just don't like. And most of them are on TV every night or every day. And I must admit that I don't particularly care for the guy that calls himself president-elect or any of his followers. I must admit that I've lost some friends over this because they got a little too happy in front of me. And so I had to do a little soul searching. I had to be reminded of who God was through it all. And I was really fired up the first Sunday morning after the Tuesday night. And I'll admit, I didn't sleep that Tuesday night. I stayed up all night with the TV on. I sat right there thinking that they were actually going to play by the rules. And how quickly I realized they weren't going to play by the rules. And so I was pretty upset. I went to church on Sunday morning, and my preacher talked about loving everybody. I said, no, preacher, don't. Don't do that. Don't do that. No, just don't, preach about giving or something, but don't tithing. I don't care but don't preach about loving everybody. And it hit me. He's talking to me. There was probably 300 people there, but he was talking to me. Because I needed to hear that, because from Tuesday to Sunday, I was mad. I'm not going to stand here and tell you sugarcoat it any other way. I was mad that they had railroaded a man that I thought had done a great job as our president, and how anybody could have so much hatred for that man. I just don't understand that. But we were witnessing firsthand hatred like we'd never seen before. And I must admit, I got caught up in that hatred. And I had to ask God to forgive me. I said, God, just forgive me. I'm wrong. You're in control. You're a sovereign God. You're in control. Your will be done. Doesn't matter what I say, what I do, who I like, who I don't like. Your will be done because you're a sovereign God. And I believe that with all my heart. And I still believe that tonight. That Donald Trump may not be our next president, may not continue for 4 more years. I don't know. But I do know that God's a sovereign God, and He'll put the man in place that He wants to carry out the plan that He has for each and every one of us. And that's where I had to get in life. And so I'm one of those that's turned off the news. I had to. I've turned it off. I mean, you know, they're calling everybody to boycott certain stations. They didn't have to tell me. I just turned it off. I couldn't. That was part of my problem. I didn't know what to believe. I wanted the stuff I liked. I loved it. I mean, it was good. When I heard some positive news, I was over here going, yeah, get them. But then when they'd say something that I didn't want to hear, that's fake news. So I just turned it off. And now, a week from tonight is Thanksgiving. And I've realized I've got a lot to be thankful for. And it doesn't have anything to do with politics. The things that I've got a lot to be thankful for have nothing to do with politics. I've just set that aside. If I get my happiness from politics, I'm not going to be very happy. And so, a week from today, we're going to celebrate Thanksgiving. And so that's one of the things I want to talk about tonight is Thanksgiving. And I've got a lot to be thankful for. I was just telling Virginia, I had a granddaughter. My second granddaughter was born June the 10th, the day after the Republican primary, June the 9th. Born in Greenville, very healthy, doing great. And the very next day her heart stopped. 1 day old, had to have open heart surgery. They had to fly her in a plane to Charleston. The doctor said if they'd waited 2 more hours, she wouldn't be here tonight. She's doing great. You would never know she had any problem by looking at her right now. Politics doesn't mean anything to me. When I got a granddaughter that almost died, I find Thanksgiving in that. That there was some doctor smart enough to take care of a 1 day old baby that had to have open heart surgery, the size of a walnut. They cut that walnut open and replaced 6 veins in her heart and sewed her back up. You think about that. You want to be helpless? We drove all night to get to Charleston. Surgery was at 6 o'clock in the morning. We drove all night to get there. We pulled in. My daughter, the mother of the child, was with us. We had to get her out of the hospital so that she could get down there to be with her daughter. Her husband had already gone down. He was ahead of her. Took my daughter over to the MUSC at 4 o'clock in the morning. And I went back to the hotel. My wife was with her other granddaughter who's 2.5, and they were trying to get some type of sleep because my 2.5-year-old granddaughter needed to be asleep. And I sat in the lobby of the Marriott, 1 block away from MUSC. I sat in the lobby at 5:30 in the morning, completely helpless. There wasn't one thing Davey Hiott could do. They were in there operating on my 1 day old granddaughter, and there wasn't one thing I could do. You want to be helpless? All I could do was pray and say, God, if you've ever wanted me completely helpless, here I am. I'm here. Now, what's going to happen to my granddaughter? I have no idea. But I'm helpless. It's you. That's all I got. But you know what? That's enough. I got a lot to be thankful for. I got a lot to be thankful for this next week. You know, I'm healthy. I haven't had COVID yet. I'm sure I'm going to get it. Some doctor's going to tell us all we've had it eventually. We know that. I mean, next time you go to the doctor, if you feel perfectly healthy, I honestly believe somewhere down the line they're going to tell you you've had COVID so they can give you that, they can put that number on the chart. We got a lot to be thankful for, folks. We can't spend our time getting caught up in the ugliness of the political schemes that are going on right now. Sure, we want Donald Trump to win. Every one of us in this room want Donald Trump to be reelected president of the United States because we know what that means. But you can't let it kill your joy. You can't let it kill your Thanksgiving. You can't let it kill all the things that you've been afforded in this world. That's my first thing. My second thing is, on a little bit lighter note, I'm going to give you some statistics. And I just felt like I had to say that to start with. I just felt like I needed to say that. Second thing I want to talk to you a little bit about is the state of South Carolina and where we are. And I'm going to give you some, take my glasses off so I can see. January 1st, 2020. These are employment and workforce numbers. January 1st, 2020, we had $1.1 billion balance, $1.1 billion balance in our unemployment insurance fund. That was January 1st of this year. Through September 30th, we've paid $976.6 million out in unemployment claims. We started with $1.1 billion. Through September, now that's through September, we paid $976.6 million. Through September 26, there's been 749,708 unemployment claims in South Carolina. That's South Carolina. That's not the nation. That's South Carolina. The peak unemployment rate was April, and it was 12.8%. Now, the CARES money, we all know what that is. That's sort of the stimulus money that they sent to each state based on a formula. The state of South Carolina got $920 million for their unemployment insurance. We paid out, through September, we've paid out $976.6 million. That's through September. And we got $920 million back toward that. And then in this past year, the General Assembly passed a bill that capped the 2021 tax rates. So that's basically saying that if you own a small business or if you're self-employed, they cap the rates as to what unemployment insurance can be. First time we've ever done that, Rex, I think. And through those savings, it's going to total about $172.4 million with us capping out those rates as opposed to where they probably would have gone if they'd have stayed with the other formula. So you can see that unemployment was a huge thing in South Carolina. But so far we've been able to hold our own a little bit and do pretty well. The unemployment rate is obviously coming down in South Carolina, and we'll get some more numbers. I think we'll get them at the end of November, I believe, when the next set of numbers come out. Let me talk a little bit about CARES Act money that came to South Carolina outside of unemployment insurance. And I'm going to read some of these statistics. where some of that, where the money, where the legislature sent the money once it came to the state of South Carolina. We sent $73 million to DHEC for statewide testing and monitoring. We sent $20.1 million to MUSC for some additional statewide testing. And then the Unemployment Trust Fund, we put $420 million in that. Nonprofit relief program, $25 million. Minority and small business relief program, $40 million. State agencies, higher education, and local governments, $115 million. And I believe the state of South Carolina is ahead of a lot of other states because of what has been put in place over the years to bring those businesses back. BEA sent out a whole new set of revenue forecasts this week. And I want to read those to you. The BEA projects recurring general fund revenue will increase 1.7% in the fiscal year 2021-2022. So next year, they project that the revenue in the state of South Carolina will increase 1.7%. That's about half of what they normally project. But they say it's going to start off kind of slow, and then they believe it's going to pick up third and fourth quarter of next year. So if it increases 1.7%, that will result in about $182.2 million of new money. So, having said that, let's go back and look. When we go back in session in January, there's going to be one time what they call non-recurring money, one-time money. And based on what they tell us, it's going to be, let's see, let me see what the total figure was. It goes back and picks up non-recurring revenue 2018 and 2019, 2019, 2020, 2021, 2021, and then projected 2021's general fund surplus. Total will be $987.4 million that we will have to address in January. So they're saying when we get back in session in January, when we go to do a budget, there's going to be an additional $987.4 million that we did not forecast, but most of that is previous monies that haven't been spent. They carry them for 2 years, and then if they haven't been spent in 2 years, then they consider that non-recurring one-time monies. So you can see that the state of South Carolina has done pretty well. We are one of 5 states that they're what I call the savings accounts. We are one of 5 states that have fully funded their savings accounts. There's, I believe, Oklahoma this week announced that they were cutting another $1 billion out of their budget. Was that right? Did you hear that, Rex? This is the 3rd time they've gone in and cut this year. And they announced that they're going to try to cut out another $1 billion. Almost just about every state that you hear about, you know, you hear the arguing on TV about the Democrats want to pass a stimulus bill that sort of pays off the debt of some of these states that have done a poor job of handling money. New York, California, New Jersey, Michigan. You know, Ms. Pelosi wants to pay off their debts for them with stimulus money. And the president fights that every time. That's one of the biggest concerns I have if the Democrats do take over, is you're going to see a whole lot of that real quick, because a lot of these states are struggling, struggling really, really bad. So I got a feeling you're going to see a stimulus bill get moved pretty quick so that they can send money to their friends who are not doing a very good job. The state of South Carolina is doing, I would say, remarkably well considering the circumstances. Most of the big employers in the state of South Carolina are back up at 100% running. Fortunately, I mean, I didn't agree with everything, every executive order and everything that our governor did during the pandemic, but it seems to have been successful. Other states are still locked down, and we see what kind of trouble they're having. But I think, considering the circumstances, it has worked out fairly well. Of course, there's been a couple of, like I said, there's a couple of things I would have done different. But nobody had been through this before, so nobody had any history to fall back on. And that'll be a topic of conversation when we get back in January. I've talked to some of my colleagues, and they're going to probably pre-file several bills that restrict the governor's authority. And we'll see where that goes. I was one of 20 House members that signed a letter and sent it to the Federal Election Commission demanding that they count every legal vote. And I don't know how far that letter got, but we felt like it was important. There was 20 of us that sent a letter to the federal government stating that we felt like every legal vote should be counted. You know, it's a crazy world we're living in. I'm sure Rex is the same way. Rex and I talk just about every day, and we get calls all the time, people just needing help. Just needing help. We're getting an influx of people that are moving here from other states that are locked down. I mean, we really don't understand what's going on, but we were selling my mom's house. She passed away 5 years ago, and we were selling my mom's house, and we put it on the market on a Friday. And Saturday we agreed to a deal the following Saturday. But in that six-day time frame, 16 people had looked at it, and 11 of them were from out of state of South Carolina. One guy put an offer down on the internet, sight unseen. He said, "I'll be there in a few days, and I'll take a look at it when I get there." They're coming in from everywhere, trying to get out of these big cities. And we're going to see more of that. We've seen in the election process, Charleston used to be a very conservative red area. It's now purple. It's turning bluer by the minute. And it's just a different clientele coming to town, coming to this state. And the more that we attract industry here, the more we're going to see that come. It's going to work its way up into the upstate, Pickens County. Whether we like it or not, it's going to work its way up here. But we will have the largest Republican majority in the General Assembly this year in the history of the state of South Carolina. There's 124 House members. 80 of them will be Republican. 44 of them will be Democrat. In the Senate, there's 30 Republicans and 16 Democrats. They picked up, 4 seats in the Senate? 3? 3 new Republicans in the Senate. We picked up 2 in the House.
Vincent Shaheen is gone.
He is gone. And I spoke with the Speaker of the House on Monday and told him that if we were ever going to act like Republicans, now's the time, because if we don't do it now, we need to be kicked out. So I'll wait to see what's coming from leadership. I know we'll get the heartbeat bill done pretty quick now, because I think that's one of the top things on the agenda that I know. We almost had it last year, but I'm pretty sure it's coming out of there quick this year. And we go back December the 1st and 2nd for orientation. Y'all going back then too or not?
No, not at this point we're not.
The House will reconvene December 1st and 2nd for reorganization. And we'll get to meet some of our newer members. And then we start back the second Tuesday of January, COVID permitting. And then we'll go from there. But there's a lot to do. And having said that, I will open it up for any questions.
I think it might be worth mentioning before we get too far away from the subject, is talking about the 3 new Senate seats, or flipping 3 seats.
Uh-huh.
The president had coattails. The young lady that beat Vincent Shaheen had very little money and didn't have a lot of name recognition. I consider her a friend. Penry is her name, Penry Gustafson. And I think that's been a Democrat Senate seat since like Reconstruction or something. I mean, it's been decades, long time Democrat held seat.
The Senator Shaheen and the House member, who was also a Democrat, both got beat.
Exactly.
In the same area. So it was definitely a Trump vote.
It was definitely a Trump vote. He had coattails just all over the country. There was a red wave, but you were talking about redistricting. When you said redistricting, before I turn it over to you guys, I'm curious about how you think, if you have any idea, either of you have any, or you or Rex, either one, have any ideas about how the local House districts around here might be redrawn. Is there any, you got any imagining of how it'll look after this, or going into next year?
Right now we have 37,000 constituents. And they're telling us we'll go up to 42,000. Each one of us will have to have 42,000 constituents. So you can see how the state has grown in 10 years. My area, which is Pickens, Dacusville, Liberty, I've got probably the largest land mass, but fewest people. You know, in Pickens up there in the mountains, you may go 2 miles between houses sometimes. And so I'm going to have to probably come toward Easley some to pick up some of my votes, because Neil Collins' area he's got the city of Easley, and it's growing so fast that all his is going to be in a circle, and I'm probably going to have to come around him and pick up some of his outside.
Just my thought. I mean, I'm no statistician, and I haven't looked at the numbers, but it always has seemed odd to me, like the way it's drawn up now. West Cox has got Powdersville and Berea. And the point I'm trying to make is Easley and Powdersville have a lot bigger connection and it'd make a lot more sense if they were represented in the same kind of district a little bit better.
I think you're going to see Wes's district change probably more than anybody's, because I think the feeling is, why is he over in Berea and Powdersville? I mean, they don't even touch, you know.
Exactly.
And so I think that when they go in to draw the lines, how they do it, how they draw it is, you go into this big map room, and Rex can probably share it too, but you go into this big map room, and they got this the whole room's just a big giant computerized map. And they try to start in the far upper corner, which is Oconee County. So Oconee County, they do it by seniority too. So we should be. I'm one of the senior members there, so we should be, get in there pretty quick. But they start up in Oconee County, and they'll draw, and they just start coming down. And so they'll go to Oconee, Pickens, Anderson, areas like that. You correct me if I'm wrong now, but that's the way they did it in 2010. And
Well, the one thing you left out is there's 124 dots on that
that's
map
right.
for the existing house number.
Yes, sir. But here's the one thing that caught me off guard, is that in the center of that map, there's a circle drawn. And when I first walked in there, I thought, what in the heck? Why in the world did you start in the middle? And the guy that was helping us says, no, you don't even worry about that circle in the middle. And I said, didn't make no sense. I'd been there a few years, and I was kind of inquisitive, and I said, why is that circle in the middle already drawn? He said, that's Senator Clyburn's district in Washington, and nobody messes with that district. And I said, why? He said, because he's the one that approves the plan in Washington. And so we're sitting there, basically, you're not going to take him out of his district where he can't get reelected, is basically what they're telling you. Because he basically is the ranking member with the DOJ. And the Department of Justice has got to approve the map of every state when you redistrict. And so if you start screwing with his area, he ain't going to approve the map. So they say just leave that circle alone and don't worry about it. So that was my eye-opening experience. It was like, that guy has some power.
And this kind of sounds a little boring to start with, but if you think about it, your representative in Columbia could change very easily. If you're represented by Collins now in Columbia, you could end up being represented by Davey. If you're represented by Wes Cox, you could be, well, not to give a district to a person. If you live in Wes's district now, you might end up in District 5 in the Easley the next time around. So this is kind of stuff to pay attention to keep up with who you're representing. I guess the biggest shock I got when first time I ran for office and was shaking hands with people, going door to door and campaigning, was how many people don't know who their state representative is. But I've talked about this enough. Who's got a question?
Justin Alexander, I just want to say thank you so much. You've been a rock solid ally of personhood. I really appreciate that. Speaking about the heartbeat bill, do you know where Speaker Lucas is? And also, do you anticipate that there'll be a challenge for Speaker? And would you support a new Speaker?
Speaker Lucas is on board. He's fully supportive of the heartbeat bill. Let me see if I can just kind of help you a little bit with that. I know that sometimes some bad information gets out there, and then we start receiving these emails. We get 50 emails all basically saying the same thing about a certain issue. What happened was that it got into the Judiciary Committee, and the guy that was chairman of the Judiciary Committee was in line for a U.S. attorney position, which he now is. And so he kept saying, I don't want to do something that's going to hurt my chances of being U.S. attorney, whether it's right or wrong. And I talked to him and I serve as chairman of the Ag Committee. So when we would have chairman meeting, I'd say, Peter, we got to get that thing out. Just put it on the floor. What happens, happens. But let's get it on the floor. And so they were, for lack of a better word, they were protecting him to get him out of there. And he's out now. And I don't know who the new judiciary chair is. There's 3 or 4 running. Nobody even knows what committee they're on, so I don't know why anybody's trying to run for a position, because the Speaker makes that appointment on December the 2nd. You'll get a piece of paper that tells you what committee you're on. Nobody knows. So I don't know why in the world these people are calling people saying, will you vote for me for chairman? They may not even be on the committee, And so I've talked to Speaker Lucas about it many times, while we were going through that and since McCoy's gone. And he's assured me that it's coming out quick. Now, I'm pretty sure that they now have the votes to set anybody down in the Senate that stands up there and filibuster. Probably the first time in forever. But they have the votes now. If somebody wants to take the floor and start filibustering, they can shut them down now. That's been the holdup, is that somebody's threatened to filibuster. They can't do that anymore. They'll take an up or down vote on it. And so we're gonna get that bill, because who I hope is the new chairman, like I said, I don't know who's going to be there, but who I hope is going to be the new chairman, he's a big supporter of the heartbeat bill. And he's using that as his advantage to go and get votes. So when we had our caucus meeting back in June or July, that was we always set the agenda. That was the second item on the agenda. So, but yeah, I agree with you 100%. We're gonna. I don't know what would stop us this year. I'll put it to you that way.
Well, to hit the other hot button topic or bill that's been argued and re-argued over and over the last few years, constitutional carry. You have any insights on that?
That's another. That's another one that got stuck in judiciary. There's people that'll tell you things in your office one way, and there's people that will do something different on the floor. I felt like we had the votes to, if we could have got it to the floor, I believe we would have had the votes to pass it. But then when you stop and talk to some of these people that sort of on the fringe, they kind of say, well, I really don't want to vote for that. But I believe that the new members that are coming in, we picked up 2 seats plus the new members that are coming in. I believe the numbers are there. With an 80 vote, with 80 members, there is a block of voters. There's a block of votes in that Republican caucus that if they decide to go one way, and I have to say I'm part of it. It's called the Family Caucus. If we decide to go one way, we can stop anything the Republicans want to do. So they got to have us. And so we intend to be heard this year. And several constitutional carry, heartbeat, other things that's going to come our way. We have made up our mind that the people of South Carolina have spoken, and we're going to be heard.
One of the big complaints I've heard over the COVID and what the governor's handling of the COVID was there is a 15-day emergency provision for the governor to do something, and continually coming back and redeclaring an emergency for the same situation without going to the General Assembly and getting you guys in on it too. So any thoughts you'd like to share on that?
Yeah, that's why I said come January there'll be some discussion about his authority. I mean, like I said, I think he did, considering the circumstances, I think he did a pretty decent job. And there's some things I'd have done different. But what he was doing was that he was issuing an executive order, and right before it expired, he'd issue another one. And so instead of continuing that 15-day one, he'd just issue a new one. And he was basically saying that 15 days, I'm not extending that 15 days. I'm just issuing another. I got 15 days on this new one. And so he was kind of playing the shell game. He was playing the politics. But there was, after about 5 or 6 of those, there was some serious conversation about, wait a minute, that's not the way the law's written. And so we'll see in January. We'll see. Here's my concern, though. it may not always be a Republican governor. Anytime we give too much authority to somebody, we're looking at, or take the authority away, we're looking at what it is right now. But we have to remember that it may not always be our party in charge. And if we give too much authority and all of a sudden our party's not in charge.
Too much power in one place is always a
That's
bad
right.
idea.
That's
Checks and balances,
That's right.
always. Anybody else have a question? Alan, you want this microphone? Here, use mine.
Thank you for coming, Davey.
Yes, sir.
I'm Alan Quinn from Easley. You know me well. And I'm like you. I'm older than you are. But I have never thought I would see this country the way we are right now. I thought I'd be gone. And my kids would see it. It's here.
Not pleasant either, is it?
In my opinion, it's because of the desperation of the liberal, progressive, socialists in this country that have been working for 30 to 40 years to get what they want, and they saw President Trump taking that away. So that's why they're doing what they're doing. They're desperate. They see it slipping away, what they've worked on for so many years to make happen. They're seeing it slip away. A lot of this starts at the local level in politics, as far as elections are concerned. That's what we're seeing all over this country, local elections. Here in Pickens County, we have a young lady, Miss Lillian Boatwright, that has been obviously an outspoken, liberal, progressive, socialist, activist that was appointed as secretary of our elections commission. 2 groups have asked for her resignation, but she will not resign. 3 groups then sent petitions, letters to the governor asking him to remove her from the commission. And we haven't heard anything on what he's doing on that. Do you know what the status of that decision is? And are you helping to see that this happen?
Let me, first off, and in full disclosure, Rex and I have talked to her. I mean, we've communicated with her. I don't necessarily know if you've talked to her. I've talked to her personally. The law says you got to have somebody from the opposing party, what I call the opposing party, which would be a Democrat, on the election commission. She was recommended by Representative Clary at the time. He was a representative. He recommended her. That was his only recommendation. We approved her. We knew she voted Democrat. We knew she supported the Democrat candidate. I guess the part that upset me the most was that she took to social media. We don't have the authority. To me, it's almost like what's going on in free speech at the national level for us to tell her she can't believe what she wants to believe and say what she wants to say, as long as it doesn't affect her job. I talked to her about being on social media. Now, I will tell you that there was another individual that was of the Republican mindset that was just as bad as she was. And we didn't hear much about her, but her posts were just as positive or just as outrageous on our side as hers were on the opposite side. And I spoke to both of them. Told them I felt like social media, I couldn't make them do it, but I felt like social media was not where they needed to be. But that was just me talking to them as an individual. Rex and I gathered all of the text messages. We gathered the Facebook post, and we sent it to the governor, along with a letter that simply said, here's the information that we have. We recommend her, you appoint her, how do you handle it? Crickets. We hadn't heard a word back. I've talked to his staff, I've talked to the person basically does the appointing in his office. They don't, at this particular time, they appear to not have any desire whatsoever to say anything to either. We sent both of these individuals, we sent all that information on both of them, not just one of them, but on both of them. And we sent a letter to the governor's office saying, here's your appointee, how do you want us to handle it? Now, I will say this on their behalf, on both of their behalf. This past election, the largest election we've had in Pickens County in history. We were the 5th county out of all 46 to get our votes counted, tabulated, certified, and sent to Columbia. We were the 5th fastest in the state of South Carolina. It didn't affect their job. Neither one of them. Both of them did a great job. I mean, there might have been some problems, but I haven't heard one problem during this election. There may have been some called into the registration office. I don't know, elections office. Usually Rex and I hear them all the time. You may have heard some. I haven't heard any.
I was the poll watcher at the office. Rex will tell you, I talked to him off and on all day. There were no irregularities that I could see.
Yeah.
Well, you know, and I don't have a problem with that. In fact, when they say that there should be somebody from the opposing party, they have 7 members. I think there will be 2, at least 2 Democrats, but moderate Democrats. Somebody that doesn't have an iron in the fire trying to change what is the vote and to change people's minds to get them to vote that way. That is, and I'm gonna let it go at that.
Well, Alan, I'll tell you this. There was a complaint about her trying to get somebody to change their vote. I spoke to that individual. You know what he told me? I needed help with my ballot, and she helped me with my ballot. She never told me. He voted Republican. And he said, I needed help with my ballot, and I asked her, and she helped me with my ballot. She never one time told me, vote this way.
I understand it, and I'm just saying that we need people on the Elections Commission that are Republican, Democrat, independents, but not to have an iron in the fire. Now, so I'm gonna let that, you know, I understand. We hope that the governor is gonna look at her vitriolic posts and obviously biased posts.
Well, let me stop you there. You gotta put the other one in there too now, Alan, because she was just.
Well, I understand. I looked at both of them.
I agreed with her host, and I didn't agree with the other one.
Well,
but we had to send both of them because they were both just as, for lack of a better word, just as obnoxious as the other one.
Well, we'll probably disagree a little bit on that one, but
well,
let me go on to it. I want 2 questions.
Okay.
Okay. The next one is on the gas tax, and the money that is going into the gas tax trust fund. Last year was like $500 million. Right now it's $626 million, and that's after the spring and the summer and the fall when all the road work is done. So they've been using up a lot of that money.
Not this year.
And we're not buying as much gas because of the pandemic. What I'm saying is there's going to be a large influx of money coming in there. And if it increased 126 million in 1 year, I'm thinking next year we're going to be looking at 800 million, maybe approaching $1 billion. What can we do in Columbia to get them to start spending that money? And let me add this. I've heard, well, they can't get contractors, okay? They just repaved my road right in front of my farm, Rock Springs Road. I think Rex had something to do with that. It's a great job. I mean, it looks good.
That's because you lived there. That's why they did that, because
Well,
you lived
I'm
there.
I'm telling you. But this should be happening all over the state. And I asked the guy out there that was doing the work, I said, is there a problem getting a contractor? He said, no. He said, we got all kind of time. He said, we can get out and do all these jobs. We just need them to award the money. And that's the end of my question.
I understand. That's a good question, and I agree with you. I will tell you there, because of COVID, whether we agree or disagree, DOT did not have their, and I asked this question because I felt like when there was less people on the road, they should have been out there paving more roads. To me, that makes sense. If there's less people out there driving on the interstates where they claim they're needing to work, that's when they should have been out there paving the roads if there's less traffic. But they said because of COVID restrictions, they weren't allowed to do as much as they wanted to do. They told me that they have contracts out for that $500,000 already. Now, Highway 93 from Liberty to Easley was supposed to have been paved back in June. It still hasn't been paved. The money's been set aside. It's going to be paved. It's in that pot. It's earmarked Highway 93 from Liberty, from the old ball field, old Liberty High School, all the way to Easley. Now, I asked the question the other day, when are you going to pave that road? People are screaming at me. It's on the list. Go ahead.
I think you just made a point. The money has been awarded, the work is not getting done, so it's gonna take long to use that money up. But in the meantime, we've got all these millions of dollars coming in. And when you reach $1 billion, in my mind, is what's happened in government so many times, is that they say, hey, we got $1 billion. Let's pay off the pension fund.
They cannot touch that money.
I hope not.
They cannot.
I hope not.
They cannot. That was written into that bill, and I didn't vote for the gas tax, by the way. I was one of the few that didn't vote for the gas tax. Yeah. And, you know, my feeling is if you're going to raise the gas tax instead of all these bells and whistles, just raise the gas tax. And if you're going to raise it 12 cents over 6 years, 2 cents a year for 6 years, that's crazy. If you want to raise it 12 cents, just propose 12 cents and let's vote on it. But they threw all this other stuff in, car registration, electric cars, all that was crazy. But I didn't vote for it. But they tell me that they've got over $500 million already set aside, and as soon as they, quote, can get out there, they're going to start doing it. The state of South Carolina does very, very little paving. You know that. The state itself, just about everything they do, Rex is in the construction business, he'll tell you, the state of South Carolina does very little paving. It's all contracted out. And so they're telling me, because I called them the other day about Highway 93 because Liberty's my district and people are screaming because it was promised it would be finished in March or April of this past year. They said we've already sent out contracts for over almost $500 million. So let's see what happens. I agree with you. Money's piling up. Roads aren't getting fixed. You know.
Can I throw?
I would hope. Will you give me his name and number?
Can I throw something in here? I'm
Hasn't
sorry.
that contract been let?
For 93?
Yeah.
Yeah.
King's got it, don't they?
Yeah.
So it is let. They
He said it's that was Alice Road.
yeah, it's gonna be done.
Yeah. You sound like DOT. It's going to be done.
Well, no, I'm saying it's not like they hadn't let the
Oh, I know.
contract.
Yeah.
It's taking so long to do it, we're piling all this cash money up. Why?
I got an answer. I don't know exactly how accurate I'll be. Shoot
Go
me
ahead.
down if I don't know what I'm talking about. I'll take it willingly. Need to take a lesson from President Trump on warp speed. The reason we're getting all of this stuff, these vaccines so quick, is he stepped in the breach and done away with a bunch of regulations and deregulated so this could happen. My guess is regulations are what's slowing down getting highway work done. I read the reason I say that is I read a thing years ago now when they were building the Southern Connector, and they were saying we're going to get it built in X amount of time, and people were saying, well, it takes them forever to do an interstate out here usually. They said, well, we engineer the whole thing at one time. We don't just engineer 2 miles at a time, and we get all the regulations out of the way, and when we start to work, we don't quit till we're done.
It's private road, yeah.
It's private road. We don't have to jump through all the hoops. The point being, in this session, I think our focus should be on deregulation. I think that my grandfather being able to cut hair during World War II or during the Depression without a license to feed his family still ought to hold true today. Why do you need a license to cut hair? I mean, you're trying to protect us from a bad haircut? I mean, how long is a bad barber going to stay in business? I mean, it's a simple example.
Well, they passed a regulation last year. Thankfully, it got defeated somewhere along the way. But they passed a regulation last year that you got to have a licensed contractor to dig a hole for a swimming pool.
Yeah, we need less regulation.
Go get a backhoe and dig a hole. I mean,
it's amazing what the free market can protect us from without the government's help. But can I drag you back into the?
Yeah, drag me. I'm going to
drag you.
Drag me.
All right, this is being hyper technical. I get that, okay? Mm-hmm. But my buddy here, the secretary, we've been looking at the laws and the regulations since all this came up on people being appointed to the election board. It says that one member must be, one of the appointees, one person on the board must be a member. The word member is in the statute of the Republican Party or the majority party, and one member must be a member of the Democrat or the largest minority party, the larger minority party, if there's more than 2. We don't have registration by party. Uh-huh. The only members that I recognize of the Republican Party in Pickens County come to our reorganization meetings and participate in the Republican Party of Pickens County are the Democrat. I haven't seen any of those people at any of our meetings or at reorg. So, like I said, I'm being hyper-technical, I get it, but the statute says you're supposed to be a member of the Republican Party. I haven't seen any of them people around here. So, I mean, how do you, yes, Amy.
I was just going to say, I fully appreciate what you said about social media, and I think for anyone who was here that heard my comments about Ms. Lillian Boatwright, I could care less what the woman says on social media. That doesn't bother me. I have friends that I'm close to that say all kinds of outrageous things on social media, and I let it. They probably think I say such, things that are about President Trump that I don't care for because I'm supportive. But what really bothered me, and in hindsight, it's really makes a great point right now that she said that mail-in ballots were the same as absentee or voting in person, as an official standing member of that group. And that really bothers me because we know that tremendous fraud occurred due to mail-in ballots. I mean, in hindsight, think about the implications of her statement. Outrageous.
I agree. I mean, but if you go and listen at the national level, a lot of them say the same thing. That's the party line speech. I mean, well, they've been preparing for this for years. This is not something that just all of a sudden happened. I mean, don't be fooled that all of a sudden in June they decided they were going to cheat Donald Trump. This has been going on for a while. I mean, they didn't implement that Dominion system in there overnight. And I will tell you this, 2 years ago when South Carolina bought brand new voting machines, Dominion made a proposal as one of the systems to South Carolina. And thankfully they were one of 3, and thankfully South Carolina, the people that were making the decision, did not take them. Or we might be in the same situation. But they did make a proposal to the state of South Carolina to be the voting system.
Before I stand down, I just want to say how much I appreciate you, your story about your granddaughter, how much I appreciate Rex, and we want to make sure that we have a free and fair election for when you come up for re-election. and for when you come up for reelection. And we need to make sure that these operatives are not inserted into Pickens County. And that means we need to fill up this room with more people. So y'all invite your friends. We need more people to join this party.
We've got a pretty good crowd watching tonight too, so, that live stream.
And I'll just,
Just one last.
let me make,
Sure.
then no, you're fine, you can hold that thought, we'll get to you in a second.
Sure.
And I may be completely out of line by saying this, but I'm gonna go ahead and say it. I've been there long enough where I guess my wife says sometimes you just need to shut up. What we're getting out of the Clemson area to represent this county is part of the problem. Let's be honest.
Amen.
I mean, I think the world of what as an individual, I didn't have a problem. But when you publicly run as a Republican, and then when you announce you're not going to run again, the first thing you say is, I'm going to join the Lincoln Project and I'm going to work my you-know-what off to get Trump beat.
Amen.
Hallelujah. Thank you
mean-
for saying that.
I mean, let's get real here. That's 20 miles down the road. And I don't, they got a new one coming in, and we got sworn in this afternoon, so we're official. And I hope and pray that it's not the same, more of the same. But when you got that mindset that I can run in that party, and then when I decide to do something different, my true colors are going to come out that quick. I mean, he announced he wasn't running, and a week later he took a national level position with that group. It wasn't just, I'm going to get on social media and say something. He took a national level position with that group. And, I got a problem with that. I got a serious problem with that. I don't do everything that the Republican Party, I get people, even some in this room don't particularly like the way I do some things sometimes, and I hear from them. But, hope and pray that when I get ready to walk away, the first thing I do is, first thing I'm going to decide to do is go and to the complete opposite to the other party and say, I'm going to help them beat my president who basically got him elected. Let's get real. It's happening in Pickens County.
Thank you.
It's not just in Atlanta and Detroit and Philadelphia. It's happening right here. And if we don't start tightening the net a little bit, we want everybody to join. Rick and I have had some good discussions, and he hadn't always agreed with what I've done, but we both agree that.
Agree this.
Absolutely. But we need to tighten the net a little bit and say, hey, you don't belong here.
Would you say it's time for registration by party?
It'll never happen.
Well, could you support it anyway?
It won't happen. And I'm just being dead honest with you.
Why won't it
Why
happen?
not?
Simply because, let me see if I can explain that. There wouldn't be another Republican elected from Columbia down if they had to register by party. Because most of those people down there are voting for the person. I'll give you a good example. This election, lady that's served in the State House that's there now. She's been there 6 years from Charleston. Good lady, really just a fine, outstanding lady. We were in Columbia, our last time in session, we were in Columbia. She came to my office and she said, Davey, I just want to thank you for being the kind of person you are, for being my friend and helping me learn what to do. She said, I'm 12 points down in the poll. She said, I've quit campaigning. She said, because my district is blue. And she said, it's just, I can't get enough swing vote. And she says, I'm 12 points down. And this is probably my last day here, and I just want to thank you. She won by 8 points because of Donald Trump. I called her the next morning and I said, congratulations. She said, wow. She said, straight party ticket. Won it for me.
Same way she got me.
Yeah. But she said, she told me, she said, I cannot get enough of the swing vote to keep getting reelected in my district.
I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I can't do this on my own. I have an executive committee here. But Judge Clary has inspired me.
Don't.
No, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to put it before our executive committee that we start endorsing. I will not, as the chairman, endorse anybody. But I can put the candidates before the executive committee and let candidates speak to them, and then the Republican Party in Pickens County can put their name behind the candidate in the primary. At least that way we can put the Republican stamp on somebody, you know, make them come in.
Well,
we can't make anybody do anything.
I will tell you that I had, I'm going to say, a half a dozen organizations throughout the state that called me and they said, we were so disappointed in that last guy, we want to talk to you about who's running over there. And they came and talked to me and sat down with me and they said, we don't want to be tricked, for a lack of a better word, again. And if we're going to throw our support and our monetary support behind the candidate, we want to know who they are. And they came and talked to me. And I said, you don't come talk to me, you go talk to them. And I said, you ask them the tough questions. And it's not just there's people across the state that they were really frustrated with some of the shenanigans that he and several others pulled. Hey, Steve, go ahead.
Okay.
Back around 2012 legislative session, or 2012 election year, right after that, Larry Martin introduced a bill S2 where it changed the way that people registered or run for office, where instead of going through the Republican Party to get yourself on the ballot in a primary, you just went straight to the Election Commission office. So anybody can show up. Nancy Pelosi could move to South Carolina. She could run for office as a Republican, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. So you could introduce a bill to undo that, where the Republican Party in a county has to certify a candidate before they get into a primary, so you won't have people like Gary Clary, who's a known Democrat, running as a Republican. You know, so there is a fix for part of that problem.
Don't forget Neil.
Excuse me?
Don't forget Neil, Steve.
She said, don't forget Bill Collins.
Well, what about it? And if that thing's driving you crazy,
Oh,
just foot up and you pull it out straight.
I'm just.
It was before my time, before I had any involvement with the party in any kind of official capacity, but when the rules change came in. Sounds like if you said that we had the authority, or the party had the county party had the authority then to say, no, you can't run as a Republican. I don't know if that's true or not. I mean, I don't know how it works.
As well as I remember, who was the chairman of the state party then?
Chad Connolly was next.
Matt Moore.
No, Matt Moore
He came after. Who? Caden Dawson?
That could be.
No, it went Connolly to
Yeah, but it was before
It's
Chad
before
Connolly.
Chad.
Floyd. Kerry Floyd.
Possibly.
Yeah.
That's true.
Here's the way you, Steve, here's the way you get this passed. All right, here's the way you get the conversation started. You get the state party chairman, in this case Drew McKissick, to get behind it and he gets the support of all the other county parties, all the other counties' parties, and it comes from his level, and then you'll see conversations start about it. We have very little. I've been in office 16 years. I can remember maybe half a dozen times that the chairman of the Republican Party has come and talked to me about an issue in all my 16 years. Now they come to our big caucus meetings where we're all in a room, but I'm talking about a specific issue, registering, and I don't want to put anybody on the spot because they all have different. I've never had a state Republican Party chairman tell me they'd like to see us registered by party in 16 years. Not a one. You would think that if they were going to push it, they would have.
In his defense.
Now, and I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus. I'm just saying, I'm just being honest that, Rex, have you ever had a state party chair come to you and say, push this bill?
All I was going to say is he did get it on the Republican ballot, or primary ballot, as an advisory question the last 2 cycles. So whether you want a closed primary has been on the ballot the last 2 times. That was Drew. So, and it was like 80%.
Yeah.
People in favor of it.
That has happened, but it's being slow walk. The Republican Party is slow walk. They're not doing what you said they need to do.
Yeah, I
They
mean,
need to come to you guys and say, what do you think? Would you vote for it?
yeah, I mean, Rex said the same thing I did. And I'm not throwing any of them under the bus. They all got things to do. But the answers.
I can't remember what changed. Something happened in the filing.
Was that at the time when they had like one person would be on there for 3 separate parties, or the Green Party?
Fusion voting.
Yeah. Was that part of that? I don't
I
remember.
don't know, was that still alive?
Yeah, that's still one on the party's wish list to get rid of, being on multiple ballots.
Something happened, I think something happened in some filings, and I don't think it was the being taken off the ballot issue. Something else caused that.
Well, you saw what happened this year when you get a third party on the ballot. I mean,
George?
Well, not only that, but look at that Bledsoe guy that ran. I mean, he got more publicity than anybody, and he'd taken his name off a long time ago, but he was, according to Jamie Harrison, he was the greatest guy in the world.
Well, right after the first of the year, we'll get a chance to talk to Drew right here.
That good.
He'll be here January, February, somewhere
Yeah.
along there. I just got an email from him the other day when we sent out your email to announce this. He said it reminded him you hadn't been up here in a while, and anyway, so he'll
Put the
be-
pressure on him.
There you go.
Put the pressure on him.
Anybody else got a question? Well, I guess we'll wrap it up, and first thing or last thing I want to say to you is your granddaughter, I'm sure, will be in all our prayers.
Well, thank you. She's doing great.
And you reminded me in your opening remarks, and people have heard me say this before, my mother raised me basically on 2 Bible verses, and I have to remind myself daily. John 13, 34, 35, I give you this commandment, love one another, even as I have loved you. You will be known as my disciples by the way you treat one another. And she'd say, what part of that don't you understand? You know, why are you acting that way? So, Mama, I hear you. Always strive to be a better person. Thank you all for coming out tonight. I know it's coming close to the holidays and getting dark early, and I don't know, when it gets dark, I don't like to go out too much on a weeknight especially. So I really do appreciate you guys coming. Rex, is there anything you'd like to throw in here at the end? Anything you going to pre-file, or anything to do with county business you think people ought to know?
I do have a list of bills that I'm working on pre-filing. One of them is registration by party, by the way.
Okay, thank you.
You can look at the bills that I sponsored last time that didn't get passed through. The majority of those I'm going to pre-file again.
I should, thank you, Rex. I should have put this at the beginning. To be honest, something you said also rang with me. When I got here tonight, I had just listened to the press conference today with Rudy Giuliani and Sidney Powell, and all of the stuff that they laid out, and I was angry to the point to where I wasn't thinking straight. I'm not making excuses for going straight from the prayer to my comments and forgetting to do but I was really angry. I was angry when I got here, and I'm still a little bit. But you're right, need to put that away. But I should have said this at the beginning. I got an email from the SCGOP a day or two ago looking for volunteers to go to Georgia and help as poll watchers and door knockers, and they're even going to pay door knockers, people to go down and pay. I'll put that information out on our Facebook page so everybody can see it. And for all of us or for everybody who had problems voting for Lindsey, Lindsey gets a lot of flack around here sometimes for not being as conservative as some folks would like him to be all the time. But I have to say, Lindsey is standing up and fighting the fight right now. So thank you, Lindsey, and I feel like I got my vote's worth out of him in the last 2 weeks.
Just a little thank you. I sent him a text, and
I've got access to a couple of people around him. I will.
I sent him a text, and I said thank you for what you're doing, and thank you for representing South Carolina.
Well, he's standing up and fighting, man. He's not laying down there trying to hit him with ethics violations and all that stuff. But where I'm going with this is, Lindsey is acting as a clearinghouse for donations to the 2 candidates in Georgia, both of them. You send the money to him, and he'll make sure it goes to those 2 campaigns. And they've combined campaigns down there, from what I understand. So, lindseygraham.com. If you want to, you can't stress this enough. The direction of our country is next door in Georgia. It's going to be determined with those 2 senators. If we lose control of the Senate, it's over. We will get, I know y'all all heard it on radio, on talk radio or on the news or wherever, but they'll add Puerto Rico and D.C. as states. That'll add 4 senators to the 2 liberal senators to the Senate. Did I say that right? 4 altogether. All right. Anyway, couldn't be more important if you ever wanted to donate. Send $15, send $10, send $25, whatever you can. If we all join together, we can make this happen. And I'll say this, closing comments, we won't have a meeting next month. We usually don't have one in December, but I remember Representative Hiott, Chairman Hiott, telling me last year, earlier in the year, that he'd love to come and join us, but please make it during when you wasn't in session. Because when you're in session, it's kind of hard to get here and get home, and I understand. We all have lives. And I was remiss in not getting you here sooner. So I thank you for coming tonight. I really do. We don't normally do one in November, but I wanted to make sure we got you before session started, and this turned out to be a good meeting. Thank you for coming, seriously. And next year I want to try to do one last thing, and I'll shut up. We need a home. We need to quit borrowing rooms from churches and hiding out in restaurants and trying to something free and easy. We need a home. We are the Pickens County Republican Party. We are the most Republican county in the state. We ought to be able to raise a couple of $1,000s a year. 40 people give 25, 50, something like that, and rent something like South and West in Easley, a nice place. If you want people to respect you, my mama said, put on your best shirt and tie. We need to have a good persona to present to the public to come in and join us. So going forward after reorg, I'm going to make the same pitch at reorg and try to raise all I can and get us in a place that's our home, that's, that we're known to meet there. I think a place to meet that's worthy of our cause and of our people. Does that make sense? So anyway, God bless you. Be safe going home, and good to see y'all. Look forward to seeing you next year. Happy New Year and Merry Christmas if I don't see you before.